Hello again, Steve here, and today I wanted to revisit this idea of philosophy. Now, I have been somebody who's struggled with philosophy. Maybe it's because I'm just fundamentally a little bit slow. And for many years in my life, I thought philosophy was something that really old, kind of squinty-eyed guys with long beards got involved with. I was never really sure what it is. Like, I know what mechanics is and basic medicine and all this sort of thing. Even psychology is dealing with the mind. Is what the heck is philosophy? It's like these brainy nerds who go talking about things. But more and more that I've listened over the years, not as much lately, but over the years I've listened to a fair bit of Stefan Molyneux, and he is really a guy who his moniker basically is the largest philosophy show on the internet. I don't know if that's true or not, but he's certainly, from what I have listened to, the most educated or most able to describe the benefits of philosophy. Why a rather slow individual like myself could benefit from philosophy. And I heard him talking fairly recently. He did a video. I saw it on BitChute. By the way, I get a lot of stuff from BitChute these days because it's a little bit more sigh of relief. You can actually say what you want over there. It's great. So just a plug for BitChute there. Anyways, I saw this video that he was explaining to somebody. They were talking about Schopenhauer and somebody else, that Polish philosopher. I forget what his name now is. Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, and this guy was trying to figure out, like, what's their philosophy and so on and so on. I'm not going to try to paraphrase it, but I'll try to put a link down below to that video. I saw it. It's a fairly recent one. Anyways, Stefan made the point that there's basically 4 ingredients. I don't know if it's his approach to it or a more systematic approach to getting to the base of philosophy, in terms of just as a sort of a check to see if somebody has got their ducks in a row and they're able to present their argument philosophically. And the first is metaphysics. The second is epistemology. The third was ethics. And the fourth was politics. I thought that was very interesting. And once again, metaphysics. I thought that was something that, like, hippies talked about, and then epistemology. What the heck is that? So he explained them briefly, but I went in and looked at them a little bit more. So if you're somebody who, like me, who's struggled with these terms and so on, come along with me for this walk and let's struggle together, shall we? So I looked some of these things up. Okay, philosophy, first of all. I knew that basically what the etymology of it was, but it's interesting to look at it. The love of knowledge, or the love of wisdom. Philo means love from the Greeks, and Sophia was kind of like the goddess of knowledge or something. But on a more practical way of looking at it, it's sort of like a system of thought, in a way. How do you systematically go through and arrive at what you're saying, right? And so the first one there, the metaphysics, is kind of like what Molyneux talks a lot about is reason and evidence, right? So your epistemology is kind of like your evidence. It's sort of like, how is your reality determined? So this guy was talking to Molyneux about this other philosopher, Schopenhauer or something like that. He's some German guy. And he believed that somehow there's this other power that creates, there's this all-encompassing energy or whatever it is he was talking about. And Molyneux's point was, well, okay, that's automatically, I'm going to dismiss this guy as a philosopher, because you're dealing in the realm of fantasy at that point, or mysticism or something like that. It's not, because there's another old saying that I heard somewhere else. I'm not sure. I was trying to find out who I could attribute this to, but it basically goes something like this. In a situation where there's multiple explanations, usually the simplest one is the accurate one. So if somebody's going to say, well, maybe there's this mystic power that's creating everything, that's the real reality and so on, and at the same time, there's the tree in front of you, Well, the tree with branches and stuff like that, that can be seen, it can be tested, it can be checked, it can be felt, it can be all that sort of stuff. That's simpler than this, this supernatural tree or whatever. It's just simpler and it's testable and so on. So it's probably more accurate. So that's the metaphysics. So Molyneux's point is his metaphysics begins with what is empirical. What can we test? What's the sense data that we've got, right? So that's the metaphysics. And then the epistemology, the etymology is epi, which is over or near, and st is like stand or to make firm. So it's like, it's making something firm. It's solidifying it. So if you have the evidence, then you have the reasoning behind it, right? That would be like the next step, the reasoning. So what is the nature of the knowledge? In other words, that's kind of a definition of etymology that I saw. And so the nature of it within, they say within with reference to its limits within reality. So if you have, there's things that, in the past that people could have evidence of, but they couldn't reason it into being. They would come to the wrong conclusion. So for example, they could see the moon, but they had no way of determining how far the moon was and so on. But over time, as reasoning developed, there'd be calculations, mathematics and so on, and all of a sudden they have a clearer picture of how many kilometers or miles or whatever it is, what's happening, what's revolving around what, and so on. As time develops, that is the nature. You can come to a closer measurement of the nature of what it is that you're looking at. Whereas before they just had this metaphysics of their eyeballs seeing it. And over time, they were able to make more of a reasoning as to what it was, I would say. And the next one is the ethics. And this has to do, I would say, with ourselves and how we govern ourselves, and then the next one, the final one, is how we interact with others. So the ethics is sort of like property rights. I own my body. And the politics is, and you own yours. Right? Because politics, after all, it has to do with how do we govern ourselves with respect to others? And how do we govern others in a way, but not govern over them, but how do we relate to them? Well, first of all, we start from the point of we respect that they own their body, which means that we cannot then steal what their body creates, because what their body creates, they own. They have the highest order of claim on that. Right? Somebody stakes a claim in the woods, puts up a fence, puts a garden in there, puts a cabin in there, and there's no evidence that anybody else did it. It's that person's property. It's that man's property, right? So that's that. So I'm still not sure 100% how these are completely interrelated, but it's sort of like a flow, because philosophy at the end of the day, if it's going to help us to govern ourselves and with respect to others, then we must have our reasoning based, we must have as our first principle our decisions based in reality. They must be based in metaphysics, which has to do with our evidence. What is our sense data telling us? What is our empiricism telling us? And then, if need be, it needs to be backed up by our reasoning. If we can't completely understand it, we got to reason it through and get to the best reasoning that we can. And that would be our epistemology, I would say. And then we have to have ethics. And the fundamental ethics is that we own ourselves, right? And because so much can lead from that. There can be other things, but everything, so much, like think about all the covenants that different cultures go through. You shouldn't rape somebody. Why? Because they own their body, you don't, right? Why shouldn't you steal? Thou shalt not steal. Because they own it, you don't, right? You shouldn't murder. Why? Because they own their body. You don't, right? You shouldn't, go screwing around on somebody else. Why? Because potentially somebody else has a covenant with that individual, and so on. There's all these things that all has to do with property anyways. What is proper? What is proper is that you own your body and I own mine, right? And once we understand that, we have this interaction. So if we base things on empiricism, reasoning, property rights, essentially, we have the core, like the first principle of how we project forth into the world towards goodness. I would say, what is the good? And philosophy points towards that. Now, religion and faith attempts to do this, right? For those who don't want to get involved in the philosophy of it, I guess. The philosophy, those who don't have the eyes like this and the big beards. They may need religion or some sort of dictates. But I think that philosophy is extremely powerful, and it doesn't have to be for those with big beards and squinty eyes. It can be for everybody, because it's actually, at the end of the day, fairly simple when you break it down to those essential ingredients, right, of reason, evidence, and property rights. It's just staggeringly simple from that perspective. So a big shout out to Stefan Molyneux for helping to simplify things. I hope I got this interpretation correct, and if I didn't, please comment in the box below and correct me on it. If you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, and share, and comment in the box below. This is Steve again. Talk again soon. Bye for now.